Thank you, Ben and Simon, for being a part of this call and for being part of the 10th Symposium premiere. I'm so grateful for the two of you sharing your talents and being on this call today. So, I wanted to start by asking Ben, why did you feel inspired by the piece that Simon submitted, Los Angeles, 3rd of June 2020? Is that the correct way to say the title?
Sure.
Okay.
It, it- it's the place and the date that this idea occurred to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was immediately struck by the piece. It's such a beautiful juxtaposition of different ideas. And I love mixed media in general, because I love the idea of things in different contexts, taken out of context and interacting with other things that they don't usually get to interact with. This gave me so many ideas for improvisation, seeing it, with the chains juxtaposed with the fig tree and the very austere bronze juxtaposed with the beautiful sky landscape behind it. I I improvised my whole piece before I read Simon's description of the art, but I was very reassured to see that I feel like I interpreted or understood some of these emotions of nostalgia, and also, the idea that this piece was composed and created during this unusual quarantine pandemic time, and there are a lot of conflicting feelings about the obviously just the difficulty and great sadness of everything that's happening in the country over the past 6 months, but also as a personal journey, I've had so much time to work on projects. I've had so many beautiful musical and personal experiences over the last 6 months. So it's a really, when I read that Simon was thinking about these kinds of things as well when he created this, it resonated with me deeply because those are the things that I felt and thought about immediately when I looked at this.
That's really nice to hear because I actually received your submission, Ben, before I got the quote from Simon as well, and it was really striking to me reading the quote that Simon sent to me about how this was kind of a collage of different pieces of art from different times of your life,
Mm.
reappropriated into a new piece. Um, and also the title, how that fits with the title of the composition, Passando. Can you speak a little bit more about choosing that Portuguese word as the title?
Yeah, I've been studying Portuguese recently, so I've been thinking a lot about these things. I've been reading a lot of Brazilian lyrics as well, which are especially by people like Chico Buarque, just incredible Brazilian poets. But I chose that word because I love the dual meaning of just a physical passing by, like what I interpreted in the kind of directionality of what you see on the canvas, the fig trees reaching towards the left side, going past the sun and the sky, the chains kind of going behind as if there's a motion forward. So the passing by, but also the passage of time, you see that in the multiple different skyscapes, and you can imagine the motion of the clouds, and the idea of feeling directed, passing by, but also very much witnessing the passage of time, maybe in a way that I've never witnessed the passage of time in my adult life, because during the normal course of events, things are so busy and I'm just focused on day to day, what I have to do the next day. But now having so much more time, you really get a sense of each day in its entirety, you know. So those kind of things I was thinking about, and what the art made me think about.
The music is inspiring. We were talking just a minute ago. Uh, it's 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 sublime and it's blissful, but you don't skip the parts about nostalgia and melancholy. There are minor chords there that are a reminder that here we are, since we're so present with this project right this minute. Uh, in this world that's in so many ways just such a mess. And here we are, grateful that we do what we love to do every day. Grateful for Audrey, who put this program together, which is it's so beautiful and it's so right for now, because we're all trying to figure out ways to connect in with our deepest expression without actually being in personal contact with one another. And this forum that you have created is it's magical. And so I thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. And it's really, it couldn't be what it is without the participation of such willing and open-minded artists like the two of you. So it's really a platform, and you make it what it is just by being the wonderful artists you are. So I'm extremely grateful to the two of you, and also to all of the fantastic artists who have contributed their lives and their art and their their way of coping in this world with us. So, but thank you. And I wanted to ask you, Simon, about you sent me a series of submissions to be
Yeah.
included in the Stay at Home Symposium. And tell me about how you chose those four uh, submissions.
Um, I the the one that Ben chose is the one that I just made right now. So that's something about that was very sweet for me. The others are older pieces. I wanted to choose things that were in any case current with the themes, the questions, the um, the the problems, the misery, the um, of this moment. This is it's a special time in the world. I went to school in Berkeley and Oakland in 1970. I went to the College of Arts and Crafts and UC. So there I was at People's Park getting shot at with rubber bullets. And I just this is another time like that. I feel like the world is about to change in a giant way. So I wanted to pick pieces that were most evocative and representative of those ideas.
So going off of that, I would love to hear more, and I'm sure our viewers would love to hear more about this piece in particular, and how you decided to layer these different, like the sculpture that you made from how many years ago was it? It was like for the bronze heart. That was from.
Yeah, um, the original element that from which I made that bronze heart was a head that I made maybe 30 years ago. And I have molds of these materials. And so from this wax head, uh, I transformed it into a heart shape, a kind of torn heart, a kind of broken heart. Uh, it was cast in bronze. The element of weight and chains were added to it, as hearts can be made heavy. Uh, and then pretty much with all of my work, this idea that uh, the human condition needs to be celebrated as it is. Uh, the world is a hard place. It's a difficult place. It's full of possibility and wonder, but from this grounding, from this weight in the world, also there's this idea that that, that things can be as deep as heaven, as deep as things are as magnificently exuberant as they also might be. So this is where the branch of the fig tree comes, demonstrating weight, melancholy, unhappiness, but always, the thing about my work that is important to me is even if those are major elements in the narrative themes, I want the work to be beautiful. And not just because in the end, almost all the time, there's this movement and a demonstration of gratitude and hope, but just that um, beauty is also a gift. So the piece started with the two-dimensional piece started with uh, these ideas of this heart and this representation of layers over time, waking up this morning thinking about time and time of the years and what was happening that day that was just dragging me down, because that date in particular was historically some of the creepiest stuff was going on in politics. And but then I have been working on this series of sky photographs, sky and sun, a little bit. I'm working on a major exhibition in collaboration with my Italian artist friend with whom I've worked for 20 years, 4 major installations in a 12th century castle, grand rooms there, overlooking the Milan and Varese. And one of the elements is in the last installation, there's going to be a video at the base, but the top is going to be a jacquard tapestry. And one of the things I've been working on with this jacquard tapestry are these layers of exuberant fantasy sky. So I had these elements also that I've been working on right now, and decided that this combination of things could express everything that was happening for me in this gorgeous, bright, sunny paradise morning in Los Angeles, filled with heaviness.
Thank you so much for sharing that. For me, when I was looking at this piece in particular, along with the composition that you created, Ben, there was a sense of a commonality between the two because of this dream state. Like I just felt like there was a sense of unreality about it, especially with the sky in the piece, and this like fantasy sky, and also the way that you begin the composition, Ben, with like these rolling sort of descending figures coming from the high register to the low register, kind of echoing this sort of like feeling of floating. And I think you mentioned something about that, Ben, when you were in your introduction. You talk about being ungrounded, or the roots being taken out from under you.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Simon, by the way, for your very kind comments. And I really resonate with what you're saying about the art. And also another thought I had about the particular juxtaposition is, you know, on this theme of hope, just that it reminds me of the plants growing in the pavement cracks, the fact that nature will always grow no matter in the most austere circumstances. Beautiful. But definitely, you know, with a plant that's kind of floating in the air like this, kind of, you know, detached from the ground, I definitely felt this almost weightlessness, this ungrounded idea. And when I was going through the process of responding to this art initially, I just freely improvised a number of things that all sounded around this idea, but of course all very different. Every improvisation is different. And I decided to then compose the melody that comes in around a minute into the piece, because I wanted the beginning of the piece to set the tone of the ungroundedness, set the tone of this floating, and the idea of kind of being in this fantasy scape, this unreality. But then what I realized in the course of freely improvising is that there was something that I found so focused about all of the kind of foreground imagery having this forward facing, really, you know, directed kind of energy. So I ended up composing a part so that I would have a melody that was very distinct and particular, emerge out of a fantasy scape in order to kind of capture, set the atmosphere of the mood and the energy and where we are musically, but then have also a very clear and distinct narrative phrase that could capture some of these other ideas of going forward through that.
I just love the layers that the pieces. I'm not a music scholar. I love music. I appreciate music, but it's so ephemeral on the one hand, and it's also so grounded. Uh, um, it's very moving, very moving.
Thank you. And of course, I chose the kind of more simple harmony of the composed melody in order to capture something a little bit nostalgic about, I always find that melodies that are short and simple like that feel very nostalgic because they remind me of kind of folk melodies and things that I grew up with. And there's a way to juxtapose a very simple melody within a more complicated landscape. And for me, having the fig branch come out of that, was that kind of thing. I think, I mean, if I grew up in Europe, nothing would be more nostalgic than a fig branch. I remember when I was in Croatia this summer with a singer that I performed with who's from Croatia. They had all these fig trees there, and she always said eating the figs reminded her of growing up in Croatia. And so I got a little taste of that, and it literally, I guess, it reminded me of those kinds of feelings and made me think about the things I find nostalgic in that way.
I love the idea that for each person, there are elements that carry you to different places. This is something that I love about art and music, that in a way it's subjective and personal, and so fresh. It's fresh in this way.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I feel very much the same way. It's almost as if you put your emotions in an earnest way out there, then somebody who's a listener or a viewer, somebody who engages with your art, every new person who engages seriously with your art breathes fresh life into it because of their experiences.
How beautiful, how beautiful. And in a way, this is kind of celebrating the common unconscious.
Absolutely. I really resonated with that when I was reading that part of the description because, what I loved about this art and what struck me immediately is that since there are so many kind of juxtaposed images, there's something in it that will be the entry point no matter what kind of setting you're coming from. And then you can use that as an entry to be able to engage with the rest of it.
And I find that's true for the music as well. Some people will find this sort of ungrounded beginning introduction of descending gestures as the entry point, but others might feel like, oh, we're floating, I'm not sure where we are. But then the melody comes in, and that's really like, that's the grounding. Like that would serve as, I guess, the fig tree.
Nice.
um, but thank you both so much for sharing such beautiful views. And I couldn't be happier with this pairing, and I hope this sparks future collaborations in some way.
Oh, me too. I would love to engage with more of your work, Simon. I really enjoyed this. And once again, thank you so much, Audrey, for including me in this. It really was a beautiful experience.
Oh, well, it's an honor to have you, Ben, and an honor to have you, Simon, and have your works represented.
Thank you very much. Both of you, thank you very much.